Coming up on Tech News Today, Leap Motion finally gets ready to ship. Yahoo sort of explains that whole work from home restriction thing, and replace your wallet with a phone. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, February 27th, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell last year's gadgets. Find out what your used iPad, MacBook, iPhone, Galaxy S, and other smartphones are worth at Gazelle.com. And by Lantronix, maker of the X-Print server. Print from your iPad, iPhone, or any iOS device to virtually any printer. For more information, visit xprintserver.com/twit and enter the code TWIT to receive free shipping on your order. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Ayaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show. We keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world, try to put them in context for you, starting each time with the top 10 of the day in the news feed. Experts at the RSA conference in San Francisco called for a revamp of certificate authorities and public key infrastructure in a post-cryptography world. Adi Shamir, the A in the RSA algorithm, and now at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel, said, quote, "It's very hard to use cryptography effectively if you assume an APT, or advanced persistent threat, is watching everything on a system. We need to think about security in a post-cryptography world." Other panelists added improving or replacing the certificate authority system might help, and that issuing certificates to domains needs to be better handled. Ron Rivest, the R in RSA and now at MIT, called for a better PKI, public key infrastructure, where people can specify who they want to trust, and called the current PKI system Pollyanna-ish.
Amazon is warning iOS users not to download the latest update to its Kindle app because of a glitch that wipes an existing customer's entire library from the device. That's gotta hurt. Though the company says it's already created a fix and is working to release it, the issue is that downloading the update, existing Kindle users are logged out of their accounts. Everything they had downloaded is deleted from their devices. Bookmarks go away too. Users then have to log back into Kindle and re-download their books from the cloud. Happy hump day.
Leap Motion announced that the first pre-orders of its $80 Leap Motion controller will ship starting the week of May 13th. Best Buy stores will stock the device starting the 19th of May. Leap also announced that their device will launch alongside its app store, which they're calling Airspace.
Take that, haters! Through the continuing adversity of putting out an Android app, selling themselves to Facebook, and changing their terms of service, Instagram has persevered. Like an investment banker at a high school reunion, Instagram is rubbing their 100 million monthly active users in the collective noses of their critics. Facebook and its 1 billion monthlies smiled and patted Instagram on the head.
Oh, Instagram, the nerd that could. Samsung has announced the Wallet app at Mobile World Congress. Users can save things like events, tickets, boarding passes, membership cards, and coupons in one simple location. And if that sounds a lot like Apple's Passbook, well, it's because it's a lot like Apple's Passbook. Third-party developers will be able to integrate with Wallet so users can add passes and tickets to the app, but any integration has to be first approved by Samsung. Passes saved within the app feature barcodes that can be scanned at payment terminals, but at least for now, no NFC features in Wallet.
Forget about wallets. Let's get down to business. Office 365. The new business editions of Office 365 officially launched today. Microsoft added 3 new variants, and they are Office 365 Pro Plus, Office 365 Small Business Premium, and Office 365 Midsize. Small Business Premium supports up to 25 users and costs $15 per month per user. Midsize business can handle 300 users and also costs $15 per month.
More demos from TED have minds boggling, and the one getting the most buzz today is a smartphone app that uses a phone's camera to analyze your urine and check for various medical conditions. It's called UCheck, U-C-H-E-K, and Mishkin Ngawale showed it off using an iPhone to detect the presence of 10 elements like glucose and nitrites and diagnose 25 different health issues. The app will be available from Apple's App Store starting at the end of March for $20, which includes a testing mat and 5 dipsticks.
Hey, who you calling a dipstick?
Not you.
Oh, good. Major League Baseball loves Apple's Passbook app. I just can't stop talking about Passbook today. This year, 13 new stadiums will accept Passbook tickets for the first time. Who are they? The Minnesota Twins, the Baltimore Orioles, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Oakland A's, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Detroit Tigers, and the Chicago Cubs. The New York Mets, the San Francisco Giants, and the Kansas City Royals will again offer the service this season. MLB says there are 3 more teams that will also enable iOS tickets, but they're not saying who yet.
By the way, I just feel I have to clarify now. You don't pee on the phone. You
Use
take
the
a
camera.
picture of a container
that's dumb.
afterwards.
I'm not
chat room
featuring this on i5.
Chip maker Freescale Semiconductor announced the Kinetis KL02, the world's smallest ARM chip at 1.9 by 2 millimeters. It has a 32-bit processor, 32K of flash memory, 4K of RAM, a 12-bit analog to digital converter, and a low-power UART built into the chip. Among many Internet of Things type uses, Freescale mentioned swallowable computers as one potential use. The Kinetis KL02 chip is on display at Embedded World in Nuremberg, Germany. So pop by if you're in the neighborhood.
How am I supposed to follow up swallowable computers? Adobe just announced Photoshop Touch. That's what I'm going to do for iOS and Android for the low price of $5. The app lets you do plenty of image editing, like applying filters, adding text, combining images, layers, all kinds of things like that. You'll also be able to sync your works using Adobe Creative Cloud, and you also get 2 gigabytes of storage for free. Photoshop Touch works on iOS 6 and Android 4.0 or higher.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Gazelle. Whether you're snowed in or iced in or feeling the spring cleaning bug a little bit early, it might be time to go through some of those old gadgets you're not using anymore. You probably got some new stuff for the holidays. Maybe you got an old phone or an old laptop sitting around. Take it to Gazelle, turn it into some cash. Gazelle makes selling last year's gadgets fast and simple. You just go to their website, gazelle.com, tell them the condition, lock in an offer. It's risk-free. You can lock in your offer for 30 days, even if you don't decide to sell it. Do it now because it's not going to get more valuable over 30 days. It's likely to get less valuable. So go and lock it in at gazelle.com. And then when you do send it off to them, you'll get paid fast by check or PayPal. You can get an offer on an iPhone, of course, Android, BlackBerry, iPad, other Apple products. They'll even buy broken iPhones and iPads in a lot of cases. But do it today. Gazelle.com. Get paid fast. It is the easiest way to get rid of your old gadgets, and they wipe the data for you for free if you want. Gazelle has paid $50 million to over 500,000 customers. Sell your last year's gadgets today at Gazelle.com. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Joining us today, very happy to have Lauren Good, reporter from All Things D, back on the show. How's it going, Lauren?
Oh, hey guys. Sorry, I was just reading a Dead Tree book. I don't know if you remember these, but I updated the iOS and it didn't go away, so it's pretty good right now. But I'm great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
The resolution on that looks amazing.
Yeah, it's really great. And the cool thing is you can pretend to be really hip on the subway when everyone sees what you're reading. Yeah, I'm great.
Does that happen now? It used to be like if you pulled out something like an iPad on the subway, everyone would look at you like, whoa, what is that? Now everybody's got that. If you pull out an actual book, do people go, oh, wait, what is that?
Right. Everyone thinks you're just doing it for show.
What kind of iPhone cover is that?
All right. Well, let's start off the discussion with Leap's motion controller.
Yeah, we've been talking about Leap Motion for seems like months now, but Leap Motion announced that the pre-orders of its motion control sensor will ship out the week of May 13th, and they have that partnership with Best Buy, so you can get it in stores starting May 19th. And this is that controller that tracks your gestures and motions as you wave your hands in the air. It's going to work with Windows 7 and higher, Mac OS 10.7 and higher, and Leap's got this Airspace app store that has optimized software. They've announced application plugins for Autodesk and Corel Painter. It's also got games like Wreck-It Ralph and Cut the Rope. And there's going to be a public demo at South by Southwest. Lauren, this thing's only a few months away. Are you going to get one of these little motion controller things, or is this just a little gimmicky for you?
I'm really looking forward to playing with it, truthfully. Whether or not I go out and buy it, rush out and buy it, not quite sure about that. I could picture buying it as a gift for some people, though. I think that something like the Leap Motion, I put it in sort of the same category as the Oculus Rift. I don't know if you guys have seen that really cool gaming headset yet, but these sort of ancillary devices that really have the potential to shake up gaming, whether it's console gaming or in Leap's case, PC gaming, as we know it. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have seen it in person or seen some of the videos, but it's hyper precise. I mean, you literally just kind of wiggle your fingers around in front of the screen with the sensor placed in front of your keyboard. It shapes and molds things for you. I don't know if you've seen the Jenga-like game, but it allows you to tap at wood blocks as though you were playing this game of Jenga. And then, of course, the company does see some professional use cases for it as well. I just think this is going to be a really, really cool product.
Tom, you're on the bleeding edge. You bought a Chromebook Pixel, I think. Are you going to be picking up one of these awesome little controllers?
Oh yeah, I already pre-ordered one. And this one's not as ridiculously priced as the Pixel, right? So if $80 is a much more reasonable price, it's still not cheap, but it's something that I think is going to be interesting to see how people really do end up using it, because everybody's talking about touchscreen, and you bring up the Pixel with its touch screen. The criticism is, I don't want to reach out and touch my screen. Maybe I'm going to get it greasy, or I'm going to get gorilla arm. This seems much more natural to be able to do the same things to a screen when you're in a sitting position. And I love the fact that it's not just about gaming. They've got gaming in there too, but they've got productivity applications. Even just swiping spaces on OS X looks like it would be a lot easier with this.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I mean, a lot of things about smudging your screen, you wouldn't have to do that anymore. I'm really excited when this thing gets built into laptops in the future. But I got to say that I'm very excited about the Leap. It's got a small center area though, so like I think it only tracks within 3 inches, so you can't use it like as a media center PC kind of Connect like thing. Sarah, what do you think about the Leap?
I agree with you, Tom, that the gaming aspect of it is awesome. If it works well, it's going to make a lot of people happy. But having plugins for something like Autodesk, Corel Painter right off the bat makes me think, oh, okay, cool. So, if you're a creative person, and in essence, it's almost like you can think of working with your hands, or some sort of a stylus or a pen or something without actually having to, touch a screen or a Wacom tablet or something, or use a mouse, that in a very precise way. That opens up a lot of possibilities. And I think that's actually going to be really cool for people who are not just gaming and spending some time having fun, but actually making things.
Yeah, when I first heard this and they said it was going to be $80, I'm like, there's no way they can get this to market at $80, and they've managed to do it. So I think it's not a tremendous amount of investment to try out something that might be a little gimmicky at first, but could have some really cool applications in the future.
The interesting thing is going to be whether or not the company sticks with the direct-to-consumer model or just partners with more and more hardware and PC makers to have it built in, and whether it just becomes a standard in future iterations of PCs and maybe mobile devices too. I mean, I think the company's already partnered with Asus for select models of those computers, right? So lucky Asus buyers will get a Leap with those.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that's the smart direction, at least for Leap to go, is to use this as a way to build some buzz around it. Obviously, it's going to get better over time. It's going to get a wider range, and then if you can start to get manufacturers on board to include it, then it becomes great for consumers, but it also becomes great for Leap because they have a built-in sales base. Let's talk a little bit about Samsung, Apple Passbook, and Major League Baseball. What do they all have in common, Sarah? That was my
Tom.
local news tease for you.
Wallets are so over. No one wants wallets anymore. The problem is that there's, as far as I can see, there's still not one solution. But as I did mention in the news views, the Major League Baseball Passbook is a big hit, at least with the 4 teams that were allowing it in their stadiums last season. So we've got 13 new teams. They're going to be allowing you to go ahead and walk through with your ticket on Passbook. But Samsung has announced its new wallet app that is a lot like Passbook. I mean, it's whether or not you think that Passbook is great on iOS, and depending on who you talk to, people either say, yeah, it's awesome, it's really convenient, or gosh, it's really kind of a hassle and harder than it needs to be. Samsung's wallet app works pretty much the same way. So you've got boarding passes, you've got event tickets for stuff like baseball, or loyalty cards at a store that you frequent often, that sort of thing. And third-party devs can use Wallet to let users obviously add stuff to the app, but Samsung says we need to approve it first. We want to make sure that it's working. And there aren't any NFC features yet. So for people who are really bullish on NFC, that's probably going to be pretty disappointing, especially since Samsung recently did announce a partnership with Visa to ship smartphones down the road with NFC-powered PayWave service. So this is, at least at this point, not that. It's a different thing. I wonder, before I move on, Lauren, do you use Passbook? Does the concept of Samsung doing basically the same thing with Wallet feel like it's going to make your life easier?
I don't actively use Passbook, but based on what I do know about it, and I have it on my phone, it does look as though Samsung's solution is very similar. I mean, my biggest complaint about this whole idea of mobile payments right now is the industry is so fragmented. And you said yourself, Sarah, there's just a lot of options. I mean, on the NFC side, you have the mobile carriers getting together to create the joint venture ISIS, and that's a solution. And then, of course, you have Google Wallet, and that's a solution. And then you have some of the credit card issuers. You have MasterCard just announcing MasterPass, which is a non-NFC sort of overall platform for payments. And then you've got Visa's VMe, and then you have Visa's partnership with Samsung, and then you've got where PayPal stands and where Square stands, and some believe in barcodes and some don't. And this is all great. This is what technology innovation is about, and I do believe that eventually we're going to ditch the leather and everything's going to be on our phones. But right now, if you're the average consumer, you're just really confused.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you say that. An article by Matthew Miller over at ZDNet is highlighting the exact same frustration. The idea of like, well, if you still need your wallet part of the time, then none of these solutions really solve any sort of an issue. On that front, you just threw out a lot of different mobile payment solutions. PayPal and Slide founder Max Levchin, and this was an article written up by your coworker Kara Swisher, Lauren, has started his own payments company. It's called Affirm. And I am doing my best to understand exactly how it works, and it's still a little confusing to me. What I know is that Affirm is going to use Facebook, at least off the bat, to authenticate people and then tap into our social data to assess risks that might be associated with us. You know, am I the kind of person who can make good on this payment? So it will guarantee payment to merchants who pay Affirm a fee to kind of do a little checkup on me. And Levchin calls this a digital charge card rather than a traditional credit card. And it would be valuable to a merchant because it would lower the abandonment rate of mobile transactions from people who, you know, maybe halfway through kind of bail out. And then customers would have 30 days to pay back what they owe, sort of like an American Express model where you've got to pay off what you owe at the end of every month. And then Affirm is going to use Stripe, which is a mobile payment system, to process payment on the back end. You know, Max Levchin, obviously, he comes from PayPal. He's had a lot of experience working with mobile payment alternatives. And according to him, he says PayPal got people pretty far, but hasn't actually changed the industry. We're still reliant on an old, outdated model. Tom, does this sound like it's going in the right direction, or does this sort of sound like more fragmentation to you?
Yeah, it's a little hard to wrap your head around, and obviously it is more fragmentation, at least now, unless you can get everybody on board to it. A couple of concerns are, you know, do I want Facebook involved in this? They're already involved in so many things already. That's always a concern with things like Facebook or Google, for that matter. But I like the idea anyway, those concerns aside, of being able to log in. Let's say I log in with Facebook Connect at a merchant. I'm shopping. I hit checkout. It says, do you want to pay? I say yes, and I'm done. Right? No entering a credit card, no worrying about storing a credit card with a merchant that I'm not sure I know about. It's all taken care of by somebody I do trust, if I trust them. And it makes the checkout process easier, which is good for the merchants, good for me too.
I'm curious about how Max is planning on using Facebook for this verification or risk analysis process, because it's really not that difficult right now for a savvy fraudster to replicate somebody else's Facebook page entirely and create a presence that could very well look like somebody that's using it for payments. I'm curious to see whether also it goes deeper. Like, let's say a Facebook user checks into a certain location and that data is available to this new service, but then a purchase is made elsewhere. Is that the sort of data that this company is going to be looking for? Or is it more your purchasing habits so that Facebook can serve more tailored ads? I'm with Sarah in that it'll be interesting to see how this one shakes out.
Yeah, I could easily see it going both ways, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about Yahoo's Marissa Mayer and the no one gets to work from home at Yahoo thing anymore. The reason it's back in the news today is Yahoo issued a statement saying this isn't a broad industry view on working from home. This is about what is right for Yahoo right now. In other words, try to address some of the uproar of criticism over this decision. I've got a couple of quotes from different articles out there. Rosabeth Moss-Cantor, a Harvard Business School professor, said, requiring everyone to be in fixed places at fixed times can promote rigidity and still not guarantee that teams work well together or produce high levels of innovation. That's what Wired reports. Also, some current and former Yahoo employees have reportedly, Business Insider reporting, that the new policy is just going to separate the truly productive workers from the stay-at-home slackers who are abusing the system. It seems like that's what Yahoo's statement is trying to say is, look, we're not saying that this is the way the world works. We're saying that this is a particular problem for Yahoo that we're trying to solve. Now, I think one of the big problems here is everyone has looked at Marissa Mayer as being forward-thinking and flexible and an icon, and this seems like a backwards move. But is it? Or is she ahead of the curve and saying, hey, you know what, working remotely is only good in certain situations, and those situations are productive at Yahoo right now? Lauren, what do you make of all of this?
Well, it's funny you asked me a question because I was actually going to ask you guys, how many of you work from home?
Well, I'm home right now, so.
I'm home right now as well.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
But
I'm
you
home.
could be.
I could be. I thought about it, but I was like, I'll come the whole mile, all the way to Twit.
So we're 3-1 right now, and I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that Ayaz is much less productive than the rest of us. I mean, what do you guys think about the working from home setup that you've got?
You know, I feel like I could use TNT as an example here. We're sort of, I mean, I like to think that the TNT crew is in sync enough. We know how everybody else works to the point where we don't necessarily all have to be in the same room together. But it took a while for us to get to this point. I think it is really important, and I think Marissa Mayer, and believe me, I really enjoy the flexibility of working from a home office. I think she has the right idea saying, Yahoo, we're not flowing the way that we should. We've got a lot of work to do. We have to figure out how our teams work together, how to streamline our processes. So right now, we kind of all have to be looking at each other, and there's a little bit of a camaraderie that happens when you're actually physically next to your coworkers. Maybe down the road, you're not going to need that, but right now, you got to get a little bit more cohesive.
There's positives and negatives to working from home. The positive is you can be more productive because you're less interrupted. You're more comfortable, and you can sometimes get a lot more done, and it's a lot more efficient for your work-life balance. On the other hand, you don't have that serendipity of running into people unplanned and having a conversation about things. You also get distracted by things around the house, possibly. So, Lauren, I'll put the same question back to you. I mean, you're at home right now. Do you do a lot of work from home?
I do a lot of work from home, a lot of times because I may be testing or playing with a gadget that I don't necessarily want to transport into the newsroom. Although I'm sure everyone would love to see, a Roomba running around the newsroom or whatever it might be. But I will say that there's something about the energy and buzz of a newsroom, especially what we all do, that can be just really beneficial to actually being there, having a presence. But, I think now that I work from home, I probably work more than I ever did before because there's not a firm start and stop time. You're always working, you're always on, you're always taking calls, you're always thinking about it, even in your home environment. At the same time, I saw someone tweet this today, so I can't take credit for it, but somebody, I forget who it was, someone on Twitter said, the Yahoo issue right now, the work from home issue, wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was a PR problem. Because as you said, Tom, there could be some good things to maybe weeding out employees right now that are underperformers. And that's what Marissa Mayer feels that she has to do, obviously. And that it wasn't necessarily presented as an, okay, guys, all hands on deck sort of thing. It was starting June, those who work remotely have to come in.
Well, I mean, if you look at Yahoo's case in particular, I'm sorry to cut you off, Lauren.
Go ahead.
If you look at Yahoo's case in particular, if you look at how they used to be, and if this is the system that used to be in place at Yahoo, I mean, it's not really working for them. And they need this kind of thing, bring people together, actually have these creative, spontaneous meetings of people and go, hey, that stupid idea you had, it's really not that dumb. Let's actually develop that. Because they need all the help they can get. This concept of, I understand that I've worked at home for years as an editor, but the thing is, in Yahoo's particular case, they might have to do just about anything to get some creativity going there because right now, or at least in the past, they've been kind of a mess. And to get that together, maybe they need something like this, some kind of structure of actually having people accountable face to face and go, hey, are you actually getting my meaning when I'm having this discussion or not? Because there's only so much you can do via Yahoo Messenger.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for today's show, Lantronix. Whether you're working for home or whether you're working in an office, printing from your iPhone or your iPad can be a challenge. I know it's a challenge. When I've had to print, before I got my Lantronix anyway, from an iPad, I didn't have an AirPrint capable printer, so I was taking screenshots and mailing them to myself. I was doing all kinds of crazy things to try to get to a printer from iOS. And then I heard about Lantronix, and I like the guys at Lantronix, but I was a little skeptical because anything networking doesn't work. That's just my opinion from the beginning. When something actually works on a network immediately, I'm stunned. Lantronix was one of those things that actually did work for me. It isn't even just part of the ad copy. It's just, I plugged it in. I was skeptical. I'm like, this is going to be hard to set up. It wasn't. It enables wireless printing from your iPad, your iPhone, your iPad Touch. Eliminates the need to print through apps because it's just part of the iOS software. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to email yourself documents. Works with USB or network printers that you already own. Automatic setup. You open it, you plug it in, you print. Advanced configuration is available by a web interface if you want to tweak it, but you don't need to. One Xprint server can support multiple printers and virtually unlimited iOS devices, and it turns your USB printers, if you don't have a networked printer, into a networked printer. So it's great for your home, great for your office. They got a couple different plans. If you're at home, $99 gives you a box that will support 8 USB printers and 2 network printers, probably more than you need at home. And the Office Edition is $199, supports up to 8 USB printers and unlimited network printers, and includes a lot of network admin features like Active Directory support you might need in the office. So here's what you do. Go to xprintserver.com/twit to get more information and to buy. And we've got a special offer. Use the code TWIT, get free shipping on your order. Remember, visit xprintserver.com/twit, and at checkout, enter the code TWIT. We thank Lantronix for their support of Tech News Today. All right, Sarah, the ACLU has done a little investigating about what kind of information the government collects from your phone.
Yeah, that's right. The ACLU obtained a search and seizure warrant that shows what the government can get when a suspect's phone is plugged into a data collection device. In this particular case, and there's a PDF that the ACL has posted on their website, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, officers had seized an iPhone from the bedroom of a suspect in a drugs-related investigation. So, you just kind of keep it broad that way. Here's what the government was able to get from the device, which was a locked device: passwords, pictures, videos, stored voicemails, geolocation points over the last several years, web history, data files, wireless networks that had been accessed, the user's custom dictionary, what has been deleted. So it's like, kind of everything, right? The ACLU notes also that even though ICE in this particular case had obtained a warrant for this cell phone search, courts aren't always in agreement with each other. There's not a clear case of whether a warrant is necessary in these circumstances, and no statute requires one. There are obviously cases of warrants not being needed at border crossings, for example. So you might go, well, okay, so why do we have things like the Stored Communications Act, where the governments, have to submit subpoenas to get search warrants and submit them to Apple or Google or Microsoft or other companies that provide email services in order to look stuff like this up? If the email data is already on the device and you don't necessarily need a warrant in order to scrape this device with a data collection device and get this information, is the government going to be able to bypass these acts that are supposedly in place for the protection of citizens?
Well, I mean, the thing about what you can do without a warrant, I mean, that's pretty particular. I guess I'm kind of curious about if what the ACLU found out. Do you know if they had iPhones that had passcodes on them or not, or were these just unlocked phones that you could just swipe to unlock and get into?
Passcode or not, this was stuff that could be accessed whether or not your phone was password protected. Okay,
well that's I guess that's a little bit more intriguing. But it's kind of like if you had like a locked trunk or something. I mean, there are steps you can do if you have some kind of cause to check something. So I don't find it that surprising that this is a possibility. But I mean, unless it's litigated enough times, people are going to have to say, look, this is what's going on. This is against our rights. But then again, it's a kind of a sticky situation when it comes to this, basically Fourth Amendment stuff. So phones and computers are, similar kind of things. So you're going to have to look at those older cases to see how that worked out. And off the top of my head, I don't have that information.
Lauren, does this surprise you? Does this frighten you? Are you of the mind that if you don't have anything to hide, it's okay? Where do you stand on this?
It doesn't surprise me. Not necessarily the actions that are being, taken against the accused here in the investigation, but just this idea that all of this data is stored on our mobile devices and is accessible in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't surprise me at all. And I don't mean to get all dark side of the internet on everyone here, but these are internet-connected devices. They are mini computers in our hands and in our pockets. And every function that you perform on this device is going somewhere. You're leaving a digital footprint somewhere. And so the fact that we're seeing the list right now of all the different text messages sent and received and other items, it's out there and it can be accessed.
Yeah, I would say that the two things that come to mind here is one, try not to think of the like, oh, well, you want to be able to get this information on the bad guys, but think about it if the government is, maybe has somebody that's not quite honest, and you get pulled over for a traffic stop, and they take your phone, and there have been instances of that happening when there really wasn't cause. You want there to be laws governing this stuff. On the other hand, Lauren, I think you're absolutely right. It's computers, it's the internet. You need to take responsibility for protecting your own data and making sure that it's as encrypted and safe as possible, and be aware that anybody can do this, not just government, not just Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but anybody who gets your phone or anybody who's connected to a network can potentially get this kind of information from you. All right, let's move on to a phone that we're seeing at Barcelona. That's a Windows phone, like literally a Windows phone. Explain, I am.
Yeah, a company called iMate says it's going to put Windows 8 on a phone. This is not Windows Phone 8. It's Windows on a phone. So this device is called the iMate Intelligent, and it would have an Intel Clover Trail processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of storage, 4G, HSPA Plus, and LTE, and up to 10 hours of talk time. Now, if you're seeing the video, you're seeing what looks to be a mock-up. I don't believe that anybody's actually seen this, I guess, in the plastic. It's not in the flesh. The device would have a docking station called the Hub that, get this, it powers a 23-inch display as well as an auxiliary wireless tablet with a 10.1-inch 1080p display. The phone would cost $750. The dock, the whole thing, the dock and the phone would cost $1,600 in total. The Seattle Times says it could go on sale this summer. Lauren, assuming this device actually makes it to market, which is a big assumption, do you want your phone to run full-on Windows 8? Do you want that to be your PC?
Wait, how big is the actual phone?
I believe it's a 4.7-inch phone.
4.7, okay, because it looks huge there. I mean, that looks more like a phablet than a phone. But do I want it to run Windows 8? No, I don't think. I'm trying to think of specific use cases in which I'd really, really want to work on Microsoft Word or Excel on a tiny touchscreen, and I just can't think of them off the top of my head. But I would love to get my hands on it to play with it when it actually becomes available, or when a review unit becomes available, and see how it compares maybe to Windows Phone 8. Also, I will say that I think it's claiming a 10-hour battery life. So considering that it's packing almost all of the functions, and it seems like a pretty heavy-duty processor there, into a mobile phone, and still claiming that kind of battery life is somewhat impressive. What do you guys think?
This is never going to happen. Sorry.
$1,600 with a dock?
Well, it's $750 for the phone, $1,600 for the monitor, keyboard, phone dock that turns it into a telephone. Don't get me wrong. I love this idea of being able to. I've always wanted to say hey, my phone is my computer. I can use it as a phone, or I can stick it in a tablet and use it as a tablet, or I can, when I sit down at my desk, I pop it in a dock and suddenly I'm using it as a computer. This is almost everything I've imagined being a benefit of the power of computers in our hand. But iMate was great selling Pocket PC back in the early part of the 2000s. They had to fire all their employees because of a fraud scandal. They've been trying to claw their way back. I admire that they've come up with this great concept, but that's all it is. I haven't seen a single report out of Barcelona that shows somebody seeing the product. It's all on paper, and it's all in mock-ups.
Now, conceptually, this is brilliant, I think. I mean, this reminds me of OQO. Remember that device that was this portable Windows XP device, had a slider, had a touchscreen and a slider that gave you a keyboard underneath. It was way ahead of its time trying to pack a Windows XP device in your pocket. I'm thinking for Microsoft, it'd actually be somewhat beneficial if they had, hey, look, our phones are running Windows 8 now. We have this one unified platform at some point, although I'm sure Microsoft would have the people at Microsoft would have conniption at Windows Phone versus Windows. But there's no way this thing is coming out, especially for that price. And the battery life with an Intel processor for running Windows 8, that thing's probably going to last an hour, maybe 2 hours. I mean,
But it's claiming 8, right? Is it not? Yeah, but that's probably with the screen dimmed down and running 0 applications. It's funny, you guys are so down on the price, but you kind of like the concept, whereas the price didn't faze me because I'm thinking like, oh, unlocked phones are generally around that much in the US anyway, but it's just that conceptually it doesn't appeal to me.
Oh, yeah. I actually think the price, I don't believe the price. I think the price is fair. Unlocked phone, $750, and then you get all that stuff for $1,600. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it's going to happen. Let's finish up with U.S. film director David Petrarca, who is now regretting something he said in Australia. He's directed episodes for things like Game of Thrones, Hung, True Blood. He's been an executive producer on TV series, and he was at Perth's Writers' Festival over the weekend. He was joking that he's never even read a novel. He didn't know I was there, but of course he's a screenwriter as well as a director. He was asked by panel mediator Rosemary Neal what he thought of Game of Thrones, which he has directed, being the most pirated show of 2012, and that 10% of the downloads came from Australia. Petrarca said very reasonably, illegal downloads did not matter because such shows thrived on cultural buzz and capitalized on the social commentary they generated. That's how they survive. Of course, immediately everyone says, director of Game of Thrones says piracy doesn't matter. So he has followed up many times on his Twitter feed to say, I am 100% completely and utterly against people illegally downloading anything. He says, I am in support. I am not in support of illegal downloads. He's just saying that it does create buzz. I found it fascinating that a guy who's obviously understands the way this stuff works and made a legitimate comment feels so afraid of the out of context that he is taken to spamming his own account to reiterate, like, I'm not supporting piracy. I'm not supporting illegal downloading, which I'm sure he doesn't. But I don't know. Is it just me, or does it strike you as there's a culture of fear if you say anything reasonable that might even hint that downloading is not like the worst thing that's ever happened to our civilization?
Well, I think maybe the concern isn't necessarily implying that you're okay with it, but maybe sort of, I think that maybe people will acknowledge to a point that illegal downloading happens. It's just the way it goes, but he doesn't want to seem too cavalier about it, perhaps. And I think probably to an extent he's right that a lot of people their consumers are going to get the show in various ways if they want to get their hands on it via the internet. And then it's just going to contribute to the conversation about the show ultimately anyway.
I mean, for something like Game of Thrones in particular, I am a huge fan. And the reason that I felt sort of like beaten over the head with how great the show was because my friends would not stop talking about it. Now, some of those people were HBO subscribers because that's how you get Game of Thrones. And some of those people were getting it via other means. But it did eventually get me to start watching the show because of the word of mouth. And ultimately, what I do then is say, what a great show this is. And I entice other people to watch it. So there is really something to this. I'm not saying that, if you want a show to be popular, then you have to have a lot of people pirating it. But it does help spread the word.
Well, he had to say something. I mean, the thing is, those headlines were screaming like, hey, a director says it's okay. And I mean, the reason he's spamming people on Twitter, I'm looking at this, is because he's replying all these different people who are saying, oh, look, he said it's okay. So it's almost like, I don't know if he had like he was fearful so much as he's like, oh, great. This thing I said is being taken out of context. This is, I mean, obviously this is his livelihood. He wants to make sure that he's getting paid for the works he's doing. So when the headlines are screaming, director says, steal all you want, you might be like, whoa. That's not what I said. I just think it's a spin.
But I don't see any headlines saying director says steal all you want. They say downloading doesn't matter. We can still have a successful show. And that is what he was saying, in effect. He was saying, I don't get angry about the downloading because it creates buzz and it gets more people interested. And then he went on to talk about how people like Martin Scorsese are doing television shows now. It's no longer seen as a low quality enterprise because they're able to create some of the best television that they've ever created in this current climate. And I think all the points he was making are great. But the fact that he, seemed to imply that downloading didn't matter, even though those weren't his words, I think has come back to bite him. And I don't think it should. I think what he's saying, because he never said downloading should be, illegal downloading should be okay. Should he have to say that? Should he have to make that caveat? Maybe he does.
I'm looking at the headlines right now. Did a quick Google News search. It says director unfazed by illegal downloads. Piracy doesn't hurt. Intense piracy is actually a good thing. I mean, I think he just needed to say something because they're just going to spin out of control.
But none of those things
sound pretty taken out of context.
Piracy doesn't hurt us.
They are taken out of context, but they are also, none of them say that illegal downloading is okay. Right?
I'm pretty sure it's going to show up at some point. Illegal downloads don't matter. I mean, if I keep scrolling, I'm sure I'm going to find it somewhere with a less reputable source.
But illegal downloads don't matter is what he's saying. He didn't say he supported illegal downloads, but he said that he can still do his job and make money in spite of them. And his point was, we need to make it easy for people to buy our stuff no matter where they are in the world so that they won't go and pirate. The reason I'm pushing this is I feel bad that a reasonable person within the industry's message is getting swamped by this sense of like, oh, I have to defend, that I wasn't treading on the holy ground of implying even.
But better to look for reason in Hollywood, right? I mean, it's silly.
I can hope, can't I? Let's finish off with a randomizer. This is Lauren's story, actually, on All Things D. Caught my eye before I even knew you wrote it this morning, Lauren, so we had to use it because we had you on the show, about a basketball that has Bluetooth built in and can analyze your game.
Yeah, I am really excited to get my hands on this thing. Unfortunately, it's a Kickstarter project, and it's not expected to ship until the third quarter of this year. And it's a little bit pricey. It's $295. As I said in the article, that's even slightly less than I think LeBron James's newest pair of sneakers from Nike. So it's definitely a hefty price. But the ball itself, it comes from a company called InfoMotion in Ohio, and it's got all these sensors and Bluetooth capabilities in it. And the ball is supposed to sense or how you're shooting the ball, essentially how it's spinning when it comes off your hand, the direction of the ball, whether it's flat, the arc of the ball, and then on the ball handling side, it's going to measure your dribbling efficiency and how hard you're dribbling. So whether you're, stronger right hand than left hand, as a lot of people have, and then it's going to convey all of that data to an app, and the app is going to analyze the data for you and tell you what you need to do to make yourself a better ball player. And I certainly did not have an illustrious career, but I did play a couple years of basketball in college, so I'm pretty excited to get my hands on this thing and see if and how it actually works when it comes out.
Yeah, because it's a Spalding ball, and they were saying that the battery doesn't add any weight. It's still regulation weight.
Yep, InfoMotion CEO says that despite the fact that it has a battery in it, it's still regulation weight and size. It's synthetic indoor-outdoor leather, so it's not the nice leather, but it still feels like a basketball, I guess. And yeah, skin is from Spalding, and this is actually the company's second basketball, which is really funny. They made one about a year and a half ago that cost it started at $2,500.
It's also got
even
wireless.
though 300's a lot, this is a little bit more accessible.
It's got wireless charging, which is actually a pretty cool idea. But I just would hate the idea of like, did you forget to charge the basketball? Because I can't get data off of it. So no.
Yeah, you get all the way to the playground, and growing up playing basketball, we didn't have all these fancy sneakers and high tech stuff, and I knew some pretty good basketball players. They did okay without this, but. Activity tracking is all the rage these days, and diagnosing and analyzing your activity patterns and sending it to apps and that sort of thing. So why not a basketball that does it too?
I can't wait if this takes off for them to come out with the Bluetooth rim that then will tell me if the ball actually went through and keeps score automatically.
Nothing is going to help me become a better basketball player. Can we just say that right now?
Yeah, I
It will
agree with
merely
that,
tell
Sarah.
me why I never will get any taller.
You know what, though, Sarah? You're great at the calendar.
Oh, Tom, you're the best. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. Let's see. The PlayStation Vita has arrived in ice silver for Asia, at least starting tomorrow, February 28th. You can get your hot little hands on that if you are in Asia. Sony's Xperia Z pre-orders began, you might recall, on the 1st of February on 3 and 02 over in the UK. And tomorrow, the 28th, is the official UK release for those who have pre-ordered. And the Razer Edge pre-orders are beginning on March 1st. The price starts at $999.
You know, I'm actually thinking of canceling my Chromebook Pixel pre-order and getting a Razer Edge instead. I can't get both. That's ridiculous.
The Pixel's ridiculous.
They're both ridiculous. Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
We got an email from Mike the Diplomat. He says, hey, TNT crew, the discussion of the decrease in piracy being related to convenience is only part of the story. He's talking about music piracy. I remember during the Napster debates in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was looking at CDs costing $20 or more. I also remember seeing older DVDs for $10. In fact, the CD for the soundtrack for The Big Lebowski was over $15, and the DVD was $9.99. There is no way that it costs more to make the movie than license all the songs on the album. Now, Amazon and eMusic have all kinds of deals for albums for $5 or less, and the glory of a la carte music purchases. While convenience certainly has played a role in decreasing piracy, more sensible pricing has undoubtedly helped. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, it's a logical point. I always feel like that argument for price, though, is like we just all were upset with how much they cost to make the plastic disc. But, you know, the price was what people would pay. It's just the market at work, I feel like. But still a good, fair point. Thanks, Mike, for writing in. Well, and that is it. Thank you, Lauren, for joining us today. Let folks know what you're up to at All Things D, where they can find your work, all that good stuff.
Thanks for having me, guys. You can check out our stuff on allthingsd.com, and I'm on Twitter at @LaurenGood. And hopefully when this basketball comes out, you know, you can actually play with up to 4 different people on the app. So maybe we can get a little twit game going and we could stream it or something. So I'd love to come back on. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and then we could stream it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it'll be ladies versus the guys. And don't worry, Sarah, we'll kick their butts.
Can we remote in, or do we have to be there?
Nothing but net.
That's right.
All right, you're on. I love it. That's a great idea. In the meantime, folks, don't forget about our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com, place to let us know what stories you'd like us to discuss on the show. You can submit stories, vote them up or down. There's over 14,000 people in there. Make your voice one of those that we pay attention to. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv, or give us a call, leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. Steve Kovach is with us tomorrow. We'll see you then.